What locals saw when this canal was drained is still hard to explain. The man-made waterway was in desperate need of maintenance, so when workers lowered the water level, they expected to see concrete cracks and trash everywhere. Instead, this submarine emerged to everyone's surprise. But what they found inside was even more shocking. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. On Drain Day, over 50 city workers gathered to drain the old canal for some much-needed maintenance. The number of employees and the heavy machinery were impressive, so naturally, this operation captured the attention of many onlookers. After a while, both sides of the canal were filled with people. Both tourists and civilians were lined up and had their cameras ready as the water level started to drop. But once the pumps gained momentum, the canal drained at a rapid pace. Everything seemed normal, but then something metallic breached the water surface. As the draining continued, the strange object grew larger, revealing a massive metallic hull that pushed up through the silt. The shape was unmistakable. It looked just like a submarine, sitting quietly beneath the city for who knows how long. Within 15 minutes, the canal's sides were packed with people, some leaning dangerously close to get a better look. Among them were Clara and Jules, who had arrived at the canal early out of pure curiosity. They heard about the drainage operation weeks ago and wanted to have a clear view, but their perfect vantage point was unfortunately short-lived. Just as the mysterious vessel was halfway revealed, loud car engines echoed behind the crowd. Clara and Jules turned to see several large military trucks pull up, and from them, men in military uniforms stepped out, cordoning off the area and pushing the crowd away from the canal. Clara and Jules, trapped in the middle of the crowd, were pushed back along with everyone else. Once the street emptied, they managed to hide in a small alleyway just close enough to still see the top of the submarine peeking above the water. Something fishy was going on, and both Clara and Jules could sense it. They speculated while hiding. But even the alleyway didn't offer them much cover for long. One of the suited men noticed them lingering and escorted them out until they stood all the way back at the city mall with everyone else. Moments later, Clara and Jules, just like everyone else in the mall, received an automatic alert on their phones. People around them began to check their screens, and as soon as they did, the town's mayor appeared on a live stream. The man was standing in front of the city hall, about to hold a clearly improvised press conference, and it all had to do with whatever they just discovered in that canal. Most people seemed to believe the mayor's story right away, but Clara and Jules just exchanged doubtful looks. "That's not a drainage pipe," Clara said quietly. "It has windows on top and a pipe for looking out. Why would they lie like that? What are they really trying to hide from us?" They ate dinner together at a small cafe, reviewing the photos they'd managed to take before getting shooed away. There, they quietly discussed theories. Was it a Cold War relic, or could there be something even stranger? Jules wondered if they should just leave it alone, but Clara's curiosity was only growing stronger. After dinner, they returned to the canal just before sunset, only to find the entire area blocked off. Not just yellow tape this time, but actual barbed wire fencing surrounded the canal, and floodlights lit up the area. Men in military uniforms patrolled everywhere. The whole place looked like a high-security zone now. Clara and Jules watched the guards in black uniforms as they moved around the canal. These men didn't act like regular authority. They moved with precision and didn't have any visible badges or symbols. It was clear they were guarding something important, but no explanation was given to the public about what it could be. Clara and Jules walked as closely to the canal as they could without being noticed. They watched where the guards patrolled and tried to figure out if there were any weak spots. After a while, Clara noticed something, a gap in the patrols just past a small canal bridge. It looked like their best chance. Clara whispered to Jules, "Tonight, when it's completely dark, we sneak through the alleyway and cut the fencing just behind that bridge. From there, we climb into the canal itself. The water level should be low enough by now for us to walk along the bottom without much trouble." Jules still felt nervous about the whole idea, but Clara's determination was infectious. After a little hesitation, he agreed to go along with her plan. They walked back to Clara's house to prepare, gathering a flashlight and cutters. Just after midnight, both stood ready to head out and try to solve the mystery themselves. Clara and Julian snuck back toward the canals, and to their delight, they found out that the security around the perimeter of the canal had at least dwindled to at least half its size. This gave them the window of opportunity they were looking for, a chance to slip past the guards. Clara turned to Jules and spoke in a soft but excited voice. "They must have guessed that nobody would be so stupid to go back and attempt to break into that vessel," Clara said. "But then they have not met us yet," Jules answered in a whispering voice. which now also sounded fired up. They traversed around buildings until they again reached the dark alleyway that looked out upon the bridge that crossed the canal. That was their way in, their blind spot. They walked until the edge of the canal came into view, and they were able to look around the corner. Even though the number of guards had dwindled, there were still plenty of scary-looking military people patrolling the area. They wore thick Kevlar vests and carried a rifle, just as you would expect Army personnel to have. But Clara and Jules had now convinced themselves that these people were not the government or the Army at all. Within seconds, they stood behind the brick wall of the bridge, which provided a new hiding spot for the duo. On the side of the bridge was a ladder that led all the way down toward the bottom of the canal. That was their route, their only route. They mentally prepared themselves with a few deep breaths, and after that, it was Claire who went down the ladder first. Step by step, she inched closer to the bedrock of the canal, and when she was about halfway down, the surface of the water touched her boots for the first time. The water in the canal was much colder than Clara had made it up to be in her head, but they had come this far and couldn't turn back now. She pretended that her shivering leg did not exist and went down further until her boots met the floor of the canal. Walking through the knee-high water, Clara led the way, with her back hugging the canal walls, so guards above wouldn't spot them. Getting closer to the submarine wasn't easy. Guards walked by along the edge of the canal constantly, and the muddy water beneath them made them move more slowly than expected. Jules slipped once, almost losing his balance, but Clara quickly steadied him. They moved as quietly as they could, listening carefully for any signs of the guards above. Every sound seemed amplified in the echoing canal, and Jules could feel his heart beating faster as they neared the mysterious vessel's rusty metal side. When they eventually reached the location of the mysterious vessel, the submarine's hull looked even bigger up close. It stretched almost the entire width of the canal's bed, and standing beside it made the route toward the top feel quite intimidating. Clara wiped her wet gloves on her jeans and studied the submarine. Once on top, Clara crawled carefully toward the hatch she'd noticed earlier from the bridge. It looked solid and old, with a circular wheel for a lock. She tried turning it, but it wouldn't budge. Jules joined her, and together they forced it to move slightly. After a few more tries, the wheel turned enough for Clara to lift the hatch, revealing a dark, ladder-lined opening leading into the submarine. She hesitated, listening for any noise from within, but heard nothing but her own breathing. "Ready?" she whispered. Jules nodded, and Clara started climbing down. Inside, the air was heavy and damp. Jules closed the hatch behind them, shutting out the faint light from above. They descended carefully, their steps echoing against the metal rungs until they reached the bottom. Moving slowly through narrow corridors, they checked each sealed or rusted door until one finally gave way, the control room. Inside, rows of dials, switches, and levers filled the walls. The seats sat empty, as if the crew had vanished mid-mission. Jules stared in awe. "It's like a time capsule," he murmured. Clara began taking photos, careful not to touch anything. Her flashlight beam caught a faded insignia, a strange symbol unlike any known military mark. Beneath it, foreign letters and a serial number hinted at an origin far older than expected. In a drawer, they found water-damaged papers and diagrams, most unreadable. As Clara studied them, a sudden clang echoed through the hull. They froze, switching off the light. For a tense moment, only the sound of their breathing filled the dark. Then silence returned. Clara exhaled. "We need to move fast." Following a narrow passage, they found a locked cabinet secured with a modern padlock clearly added long after the submarine had been abandoned. Using her flashlight's edge, Clara pried it open. Inside were folders labeled with years and code names. One, dated only 2 years ago, bore city government letterhead. The documents were fresh, the ink still sharp. Jules flipped through the pages, his expression darkening. The papers described a secret city project involving illegal toxic dumping in the canal, disguised as maintenance. The submarine had been deliberately placed to conceal the barrels of waste below it. Clara's stomach turned as the truth sank in. The local government, including the mayor, had approved it. "The canal draining must have been an accident," Jules whispered. "Those guards outside, they're not protecting history. They're hiding evidence." They pressed deeper into the vessel, following a crude map showing where the toxic waste was stored. Near the rear compartment, they noticed a large cabinet that wasn't bolted down like the rest. "That's suspicious," Jules muttered. Together they pushed until it slid aside, revealing a hidden hatch. Beneath it lay several rusted barrels, stacked in thick mud and marked with chemical warning symbols. A dark, foul liquid seeped from one cracked barrel, oozing into the canal water through corroded pipes. The smell burned their throats. Clara snapped photo after photo, documenting everything: the leaks, the labels, the damage. They worked quickly, knowing time was against them. The tension was suffocating. Every sound could mean discovery. Once they had enough proof, they made their way back, retracing their steps through the submarine's dark corridors. Climbing the ladder, they emerged silently into the cool night air, unnoticed by the patrolling guards. Within an hour, they were back in Clara's apartment. Reviewing the photos and videos, they realized they couldn't trust the police. The corruption ran too deep. Instead, they decided to take everything directly to the press. The story exploded. Within days, the evidence was everywhere: news channels, social media, front pages. The mayor and several company executives were arrested and later sentenced for their roles in the cover-up. In the end, justice was served, with all those responsible punished for their crimes. Clara and Jules's bravery was celebrated across the city. Their determination to uncover the truth not only saved their home but proved that ordinary people could make a difference when they dared to act courageously.